let's just bring that on. So welcome to the pop-up masterclass on the law of circulation. I was just mentioning to the crew that I've had a fair bit of time on my hands and also been diving into some of the principles that we've been covering in the quest. And one of the things that I felt would be really awesome to just sort of bring to the community is the law of circulation, because it's a cool hermetic principle that when you get a handle on it, you know how it works, you can use it really effectively to increase anything in your life, however you want it to be. And also, this is a sneaky pop-up because Craig's still at the Writer's Genius retreat until tomorrow, so we've snuck it in so that we can get a little bit of teaching and some sharing of energy going on, and then I'm probably going to disappear off the radar for a few days while we go up into Ubud and up into the mountains for a few days and that sort of thing. We'll have a little bit of time together because don't remind Craig, but it's actually our anniversary, so shh, don't tell him. We'll be together for 12 years. And it's actually a really good example of the law of circulation, because we have a structure in place that we continue to build on our relationship, and it makes it better and better and better as long as we're going along. So there's still some people arriving. So if I'm looking a little distracted, it's just me going for the admit people button. Anyway, I will continue with that. And as I said, I'm really pleased to see you guys and hope you brought your energy and you're ready to learn and to dive in a little bit deeper. Oh, Alchemy Cafe. Okay, cool. Well, I'll check that out while I'm there. Yeah, cool. Looking for some good, healthy food. I've actually been making most of it in my little unit here myself, because it's a fair way from everything. So it's been an interesting vibe of going out hunting and gathering and getting bits and pieces and cooking with a kettle and a knife that I stole at breakfast time and a plastic fork. But you get resourceful, right? I could go out, I could go get in the Gojek and go somewhere or something, but I've actually been really enjoying my alone time and not going anywhere and just jumping in the pool. All right, so let's talk about the law of circulation, because that's what we came here to do, not talk about me being here in Bali. So who loves to be in a flow state when things are just flowing really well, everything feels like it's going fantastically, and you're just like, yes, I'm on the flow. I really love being in flow, whether it's with one thing or you're noticing that you're on flow with something, and then several other things get really easy, like lots of things start flowing for you. Have you had that experience before when you've been in the flow state? Yeah. And then we sort of all love that, and we try and make that happen. In fact, there's books written about it and all sorts of things, and life just feels amazing. Now, one or two things happens. Either we know how to manage that tension and to keep using it as if you were like a world-class skier. You can, you start skiing down the run and it's just effortless and easy and it's really fun. Or we're like the beginner skier who starts slowing down the hill and then crashes and burns. And we actually start to have this sense of, everything's going really well. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop when something goes wrong, right? We all had that experience before where you've sort of been in a flow state, you've been with it, and we sort of have this expectation it's not going to last. And so that's a really important thing to acknowledge, because once we've had enough references of that, we are on the lookout for things to go wrong. So we want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves subject to that. Now, the reason why it does happen, why we end up, we're in a flow state, everything's going fantastic, and then we crash and burn, is because there is actually another law that we need to talk about. And that's the law of, actually there's two, the law of rhythm and the law of polarity. So the polarity law basically says, there's always an opposite to something that you're experiencing. If you're experiencing a high, there is in the same moment, believe it or not, a low somewhere in the same moment, in the same existence. But because we're sort of trained to only look at one side of something, we experience the high, and then we experience the low when it comes and collects us on the other swing of the pendulum, and then we swing back to the high and we go back to the low, and so that's the law of rhythm and the law of polarity working together. So two opposites and the law of rhythm where the pendulum swings. Now, because those two laws exist, we are subject to them, but it doesn't mean that we need to be subject to them to the fullest degree, because we can use another law over them that's a higher level law than the laws that are there and we're subject to. So an example of a law that we can't change, that we're all very familiar with, is gravity, right? If I picked up my phone, and I'm not going to do this because that would probably be a disaster, and I just let it drop over the tiles here, it's going to fall, right? We can pretty much expect that to happen. If it didn't happen, we'd probably freak out a little bit and go, what the heck's going on? Because it did not fall. But there's a law of gravity, but we also can use a higher law, which is the law of flight, you know, that actually gets us to be able to get up in the air and defy gravity, if you like. And thank goodness we have that, because that was, you know, basically an 8-hour journey for me to get here by the time I went through Melbourne and then up here. Thank goodness I didn't have to walk, ride a bike, paddle a canoe, catch a boat, any of those things. I could just get in an aeroplane and defy gravity by using a higher law over the lower law. So the law of circulation helps us to be able to rise up above and not be as subject to the law of polarity and rhythm taking us into effect. So what does that mean? It means we get to stay more in a state of flow, all right? So are you all with me so far with the law of circulation? We're not actually into the law yet, but why we would use it? Yeah, okay, cool. And we're all familiar with the being subject to the swing of the pendulum? Yes, great, awesome. And we know what it's like when there's an opposite. There's a really cool thing going on and there's a not so cool thing going equally on the opposite end. Okay, great. So really getting a handle on our foundational work that we need. I'm just going to close that list now because I think people are joining one at a time. It'll just help me to see my notes a little better. Okay, great. Every now and again, I'm going to ask you for some feedback, not just yet, but just to make sure that the whole group's keeping up. I do tend to get enthusiastic, and when I get enthusiastic, I tend to go at a million gazillion miles an hour. I really don't want to leave anyone behind, so you know, I want to make sure that we're keeping up. It's also one of the reasons that I've got you guys on gallery view. So if someone's watching the recording going, why didn't you put it on speaker? It's because I really just want to make sure everyone's getting it and not falling asleep or getting left behind or looking really confused with crossed eyes and those sorts of things. So, all right. So the law of circulation is what we came here to learn about. And what we know about the law of circulation is it's a cycle, right? It goes around a cycle. And one of the easiest ways to represent this is a three-pointed triangle, which I'm going to show you a picture of in just a moment. But before I get there, the reason that we have this cycle is because the universe is an expansive thing. We all know the universe is constantly expanding, don't we? You talk to any space scientist, they'll tell you the universe is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Just not just metaphorically, but physically, it's getting bigger. All right, and it's designed for expansion. And actually, one of the reasons you came here in a human being physical form was to actually help the universe experience itself. So if it was just universal energy, it can't do anything. It needs matter in order to make things happen so that it can actually have an experience. So actually the agreement that you made when you came here as a being was actually to expand the experience of the universe. And all experiences are valid in the eyes of the universe. So even the bad stuff that we label bad on the other side of the law of polarity, that's all valid. It's like, yeah, I'm up for that. You know, the disasters, all sorts of things. It's about expanding the experience of the universe. So we're all here contributing to that. Now, as an individual, we want to have a nice experience of that, wouldn't we? We want to have a good experience. We want to be the ones that are in flow, that get to have some fun, that get to have some adventure, that get to have love, that get to have connection, to create amazing businesses, contribute in the world, grow in big ways. Are we all up for that? Is that what we really wanted to come for? Yeah, all right, cool. Now, you did sign up for some of the shit stuff too, like really, you did. And if you didn't have some of the shit stuff going on, you wouldn't appreciate the good stuff. So we do, you know, don't want to use the word need, but we do have those experiences as well that actually contribute to the richness of the good things that we do get to experience. So there is a value in appreciating those things, not because you want them to happen all the time, but they do provide beautiful contrast and add to our ability to experience the expansion of the universe so it can also experience itself. So now all things do actually, particularly living things, I'm not sure about things like rocks. You know, if you talk to Indigenous people, they'll say that there are some, there's life forces in rocks and things that seem very inanimate. I'm sure there is to some degree, but most of us living sentient beings have the desire, the ability to expand in our nature. And so we abide by this cyclical nature. And if we don't, we are in a stagnated state and we tend to shrink or even die. Now you can think about even water. If water is able to flow, it stays healthy. It actually feeds many things. It allows growth in many, many ways, just like we should be as well. But if it's left to stagnate, when I was in Africa a few months ago, I was looking at a bog that was drying up, poor old hippo in the middle of it. He wasn't very happy because he was getting sunburnt. But the bog was there and it had been drying up for quite a while, and it was getting a bit stinky and smelly, and I don't think you'd really want to drink out of it or anything. Well, I certainly wouldn't want to drink out of it, but I don't know if there's many animals drinking out of it by that stage either, because it was stagnant. There wasn't, the only thing that was growing in there was like algae and stuff that's going to cause problems later on, and eventually it would just become really toxic. So we want to make sure that we're in this cycle of regeneration. And so the cycle that we're going to use today as our example, I'm just going to share a screen. I feel like the way I have to do this technical thing. Normally Craig's here doing all this stuff, helping me out. So I'm hoping you can now see a picture of a triangle. Can we see a picture of a triangle? Yes, awesome, very good. So it's the generate, organize, and disperse cycle. Now you could replace this with other things as well. If we wanted to put it in terms of, say, a farmer planting seeds in his farm, he would plant them in the ground so they would germinate. So that would happen here, and then he would cultivate them. So give them some nurturing, give them the nutrients and water and things that they need or whatever. So I'm sure they've mastered their art of that. And then eventually there comes a time where it would be a harvest, and they would harvest and then disperse that harvest. And then that generates probably income, so they can then buy more seed to then put in more plants, which then they nurture and then they grow and disperse. But not only does it give them income to create more seed, hopefully it also gives them income to feed their families and to contribute to their communities and do all the other things that they want to do in life, travel if they're able to get away, all those sorts of things. So it's actually not just going around the cycle in the same degree or the same scale, it's actually expanding, right? So those seeds, the reason he planted them or she planted them was in order to go through a cycle that's expansive, that they end up with more at the end of the cycle that then they can replant or put back into and create more things, more experiences, and be a very expansive thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually stop now and I'm going to hear from you guys what you're getting so far, just so that I know we're all on the same page so far. So don't be shy. This is where you bring your energy. You get to generate energy into the group, and of course it'll come back. So Aisha's going to kick us off because she found the electronic hand, and then Sarah and Eva. We'll start there.
Hello, it's bedtime here for my kids, so I'm just washing my face and brushing my teeth and getting them organised. I was married to a farmer, so I totally get that. But the thing that came to my mind is I have a partner that grows, oh God, what are they called? Dahlias. And at the moment he's digging them up and breaking them up. So one dahlia bulb actually grows like 6 dahlia bulbs. And as long as they've all got eyes, they all become dahlias. So it's that same principle, right? If he didn't dig them up, they just rot.
Yeah, right. There you go. That's it. So he's putting energy into that in the organization of them so that then he gets the maximum return when it comes to harvest time. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and he sells them. It's
yeah,
great.
That's right.
And keeps some for him to reinvest into the soil.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So perfect analogy. Thank you.
No worries. That's awesome. Yeah, really good, and good for everyone else too. So yeah, brilliant. Sarah?
Yeah, that was a great analogy, actually. It kind of summed it all up for me. But what I was hearing was...
We'll see you next time then.
Yeah, no, it's great, right? What I was hearing around, like, we're all familiar with the law of rhythm and the law of polarity, and basically how it can feel like it's a pain in the ass. And we can rise above that with law of circularity or circulation, I think you call it. And that circulation has... even though it sounds like it's a circle, it's actually, you've given it to us in a triangle.
It's just an easy way to do it, yeah.
Yeah, and what I got from that was that we're planting seeds, we're germinating, which at that time we might not see anything. And then we get out into the organising where we're actually looking after it and we're tending to it. And then we reap the rewards after that. But those rewards then can go back into that planting. But each time that happens, it's like building bigger and bigger. So that's what I got.
Absolutely. Yep. Fantastic. That's really, really good. Good summation. Eva?
Yeah, I'm just getting the same thing, that the example that you gave really helped to get the expansiveness in my mind, you know, the seeds going in, and then you get more seeds, but you get lots of other things and money to invest in your heart as well. So, you know, and opportunities to support other people and to be of service.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Exactly. You know, and that you'll always have something that you want more of. So whether it's helping other people or money, or it's this, you know, so everything that it can be, this law can be applied to in terms of what it is that you want. In fact, everybody just think of 1 or 2 things that you think that you want more of, and just pop it in the chat. Just chuck it in the chat so we can have a look at what sort of things you would love to apply this law that we're about to learn about. What would you love to learn about, apply it to in your life to get more of? So health and fitness, yeah, absolutely. That definitely. Money, travel, yeah, for sure. What else have we got? Money's the most obvious one. More love, oh yeah, absolutely. Finances, yeah. Money's cool because you can measure it, so you can see how your little cycle's going along the way. Connections, relationship, time, yeah, time's another good one. Health, yep. Money, time freedom. Clients, all this is valid, right? Anything that you think you want more of, we can put into the law of circulation, and we can actually have it in an expansive way, right? Beautiful. You can keep putting them in. If you think of something else, don't worry about it. You can always add to the list. No problem at all. Just going to shut that one down so I don't get distracted now. Now, unfortunately, the law of circulation, and I say unfortunately because most people aren't aware of the law of circulation, and unfortunately, it's happening whether you know that it's there or not. Like all laws, like if you didn't know gravity existed, it's happening, right? So it's just the way that it is. And unfortunately, what happens is that we tend to not be in a flow state because we end up basically observing what we're getting in our results, and we see, oh, that's not a great result. And we think that basically the world's against us, or we'll assign some sort of meaning about us, or that there's something in our life that's not working, or the world is just so difficult that you can't get what you want, or whatever it is. And when we let those thoughts become predominant in our mind, or, you know, I just don't have enough money, I don't have enough time to create more money, all those things, you let those thoughts be predominant in your mind, you're planting the seeds, which even without you actively organizing, actually give you a harvest. And the harvest is something more of what you don't want, right? So when they talk about be careful of your thoughts. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a thought and then go, oh no, I just had that thought. Oh no, I'm in the cycle of, in the law of circulation. It's all going to go to shit now. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that we can actually reorientate it into, oh, hang on, I had that thought. All right, well, maybe I'll change my position now and think about what I'd actually love rather than what I'm worried about, or what sort of evidence I've got showing me that life is not turning out the way that I want it to be. So we can actually just reorientate and be consciously applying this law of circulation to reverse it. If we don't, we end up in the downward spiral of the law. And it's an interesting one because it doesn't just, when we're expanding consciously, it seems that if we keep in our flow state, it just expands. And I'll show you a really good example of this. Hang on. I got it here, so I don't want to forget to show you. Some of you guys who've done some work with us before will have seen this guy. So you can see the shellfish here. So we use this often when we're explaining the Fibonacci sequence. And you'll see each of those little segments here. Well, most likely that the little shellfish that started off in here, he just went through the process of some sort of generation, like generating nutrients and bringing water and things into his little body as he was sitting in the smallest part of the shell. And then he organized it in his body, either chemically or whatever, and something they might do with their behavior. I actually don't know what these guys do to make this beautiful shell shape, but he did what he needed to do innately. And then he made a segment, and then he was big enough that he could now make the next segment. And so he would get more nutrients, and he would assimilate them into, and he would organize them, and then he would grow another segment, and so on and so on and so on and so on and so on, until he ended up in this big, I'm assuming it's a male just for ease, this big, beautiful shell, right? So that's the process of it. There's many cycles of the law of circulation going on for this fellow, so that he could create this big, beautiful, protective shell. What a great thing for them to grow, right? So that's going on. And it just seems to get bigger and bigger. Now, he didn't really have in his segments a segment that was a bit smaller, did he? It wasn't really any contraction. It just seemed to be consistent with that Fibonacci sequence that we see in nature over and over and over again. On the downward spiral, as humans, we tend not to do that so much. We tend to sort of expand out for a bit, and then we get sick of ourselves and it contracts in, and we expand out and we contract in, and we expand out and we contract in, because we do have the ability to reorient our focus. So for example, someone put in their health and fitness, you know, you could be really sick of yourself, feeling fat and flabby and not able to walk upstairs easily. So you start going on a bit of a fitness regime. And then after a while, you're starting to feel better about yourself and things are going well. And you could continue to expand, but sometimes what happens is we fall off the wagon a little bit, just like, I won't go to the gym today, I'll go tomorrow. It'll be fine for me to have a day off or whatever. And then we slowly start to sink back, because we're in an oscillating structure. We're trying to solve a problem, and the problem solving orientation is an oscillation. So we do the law of circulation on the downward spiral tends to be a bit more, you know, it shows up and then it's not so much there, and then it shows up and it's not so much there, right? So that oscillation is just based on the tension that we're feeling inside our body. But when we're in flow state, we actually just keep the tension moving in forward of the things that we love, because we just keep expanding. Those of you who know the work really well, you'll know that when you complete something, when you actually reach a milestone with some of your end results, you don't just stop there, you actually do what we call a completion on it. And then we set another one, we set it, and we go about creating that. So just like the little guy in his shell, we go and create what's in the next segment, and what's in the next segment, and we just build and build and build. And that's exactly what the universe wants you to do. It wants you to just continually, consistently, and in a natural flow state that's not too fast, not too slow, not too whatever, just allow yourself to expand and expand and expand. And of course, that's amazing, because we would love that experience too, right? Isn't that fun when we get to expand in the ways that we want to expand, right? So yeah, awesome. So let's think about what happens and what can go wrong in the cycle. I'll bring up that little triangle again, because it's useful here. Okay, so here's our cycle with generate, organize, disperse. Now, one thing that we do pretty automatically and we don't think about too much is breathing, don't we? Right? Breathing's a pretty natural thing. We do it from the moment we're born. No one even told us how to do it, probably, and off we go. Now, imagine if you can, that breathing is like the law of circulation, right? So what it is we generate an in-breath. We bring fresh air into our lungs. We organize that, believe it or not. So without you even thinking, when the air gets into the depths of your lungs, there's this beautiful exchange of gases and all sorts of things. So your body gets to offload a whole heap of stuff it doesn't need anymore. And in fact, if it builds up, it's bad for you. And it gets to take into your blood supply some really cool things that it needs to give your cells, so that the cells can make energy for you, right? So we're breathing in, we're generating, we're organizing it by exchanging the gases, and then we let go. We expel the gases and we give them out. All right. Now, imagine, you don't have to think about that. You're pretty much breathing in the same amount as you're breathing out most of the time, aren't you? Yes. Yes. Because imagine if you got a bit dysfunctional with this. Imagine if you started like holding a little bit of breath just for yourself. You didn't let it go. You're just like, actually, I should hang on to some of this air, which is fine if you're doing a free dive. But even then, when you come out, you've got to get rid of that stinky air that's in there, right? So we just, there's certain things that we just naturally are doing in the flow cycle and we don't think about it. And I'm going to touch base again on the breathing thing, because there are some good analogies I'm going to use to sort of bring home some of the things we're going to talk about in a minute. And we are going to talk about money, because money is one of those things that is so easy to determine your relationship with this cycle, because it's measurable, you've had plenty of experiences with it, and at times it's been a very emotive experience, right? I think we can all agree that sometimes money knows how to push our buttons well and truly. So it means that we pretty much universally can use it as an example that everyone's going to relate to, as opposed to other things. So let's talk about that. So what do we do in terms of money? We generate usually some sort of an income. Now that could be from a job, it could be from investments, it could be some sort of other passive income. You could even get an inheritance or something like that. A tax return might come in, so you might have sort of lumps of money that come in from time to time. And however it comes in, that's the generation phase. The next phase is the organization phase. And this is where we put our money. Now, some people do that very consciously, and some people don't have any thought that goes into it whatsoever, right? And those two different points of reference will give two very different outcomes. Then finally, it gets dispersed. That money has to go out in some way, shape, or form. And then it allows for more money to come in. Right? And this is just a matter of understanding the cycles of life. And if we want more money, then we need to be able to apply it, and we need to know what's in each stage when we're doing it. So let me just, what am I doing now? I'm going to unshare the screen. There we go. And let's just touch base, let's 2-3 shares max, and just let's touch base and make sure everyone's up to date with what we've got so far in that cycle of things. So what else? So Pam, is that your hand, or are you just holding your pen beautifully? Holding your pen beautifully. So Leanne's going to go.
No, it wasn't. But I will say,
Yes.
what came to mind was that if I have money and I don't invest it or put it into something to use to generate something more, all that happens is that it gradually flitters away and nothing is generated. And it's
absolutely.
like the story, I'm not sure who told, I think it was William, about that the people who didn't want to lose their money, so they locked themselves inside. Oh, I know what it was. I was overhearing the masterclass with Aurora. And it was about the people who locked themselves inside. They didn't want their money to go. They'd won it, and they lost it anyway.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So
because they were fearful of losing it.
I've got another viewpoint of generation now, and it's actually helped me with something I was asking today. Very grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Great. Thanks, Pam. I'm glad you were doing the pen thing. That was good. Leanne and Martine, we'll hear from you guys, and then we'll bring in some where we can muck it up.
What I've been hearing is that the law of circulation, how you said it's the higher way to go, like that's, to me, what I'm hearing is that contributes to the expansion of things. Whereas if you're stuck in like rhythm or polarity, you're actually going nowhere. You're just like, you know, repetitively moving, but not actually expanding and contributing to anything. So that really, that really hit me, that there's that higher is actually part of expansion rather than just being stuck where you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. The swinging, the law of rhythm, the going backwards and forwards along the scale of polarity, the ego actually loves that, because what it loves doing is solving problems, and it loves solving the same problem that it solved before. So if you're a person that consistently has a money problem or a weight problem or a time problem or whatever, it's because your ego loves it, right? So it's happy for you to just swing away on that pendulum no matter how it feels, right? Because it's known territory as opposed to going into new grounds, which when we're going expensive and we're in flow state, there might be something ahead that we can't take into account. So it gets riled up about that and tries to put us back onto the pendulum swing. So that's why it has us referring to our feelings and all those sorts of things as well. So, and as soon as we feel bad about something, it's like, oh, fearful, I've got to do something to control the tension around my fear. So I'll go into some strategies to maintain control over things, which is what we're going to go through in just a minute. So yeah, really good. Thanks, Leanne. Brilliant. And Martine?
Hi.
Today.
I just love the connection between the breath and the money. You know, those two energies. I've never thought of it like that before, but how cool and how, you know, ludicrous of us to imagine that energy of money, we can, you know, like hold on to a little bit and it's going to do what we want it to do, or, you know, because we all think along those lines, don't we? Like, oh, I need to hold on to this, or, you know, we've got that feeling we need to hold on somewhere. But yeah, it doesn't do what we want it to do when we've got that energy. Like, you know, if we're coming from there, it's not going to generate what we want and then be dispersed the way we want, you know, to, be utilized. I loved that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Martine. It's funny because I just had a sense of there's a whole heap of people here, which we call them the spenders, and we're about to go through that, who just went, yes, I get my money and just go and spend it, because like breathing in, breathing out, all that sort of stuff. We do actually hold on to some of it, like you do when you're breathing, because when you breathe in, you take in oxygen molecules, for example, and they go and they are invested into your cells to create energy that you use for something else, right? And yeah, you do create some byproduct of carbon dioxide, which then comes back and then gets expelled. But that's just part of the cycle of air, because then that needs to go out and go to the trees and all those sorts of things. And then the trees turn that into oxygen for us, and with the cycle continues. You know, we're very much a cooperative component of a universe. We're not just this individual unit, but within us, we do functionally take things and we use them and organize them in certain ways. So yeah, so we'll have more on that as we go, which is brilliant. Is there any other desperate shares before I move on? And we'll start talking and applying it to money. No, it looks like good. All right, check the screen. Oh, Kate, did I? Yeah, well, you're not that invisible today. Tried to be, but didn't quite make it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether to share or not, but I just was sharing with Jeff as like the money river, right? So I'm doing that thingy, and even though my savings is almost up to my 3-month limit, I still have this thing about there's not enough money. So even doing the thing, it hasn't changed what's in my head.
Yes, that's right. So you've just got to be with the truth of it. That once you hit the 3-month mark of security money, and those of you who don't know what the money river is, don't worry too much about it just for now, but just be in the truth of it. Once you're there, right? And so then that's the next step, which is then feeding into your money machine, which is a whole different thing. This is part of that, like, as I said before, when you breathe in, you take in the oxygen and you go and use it for something, which then is used for energy for something more. That's what those types of instruments are used for, to give us other sources of income, to give us more generation, more expansion in a functional way. Anyway, we'll go to that in a moment, but I wanted to talk about how we can muck it up. And as I said, money is a great example of this. So I'm just going to bring through the 4 archetypes of that I use in terms of this flow and how people muck up the cycle of this law of circulation. So the 4 archetypes are, I mentioned one of them just a moment ago, which is the spender. So this is the people who heard me say, breathe in, breathe out. I want to go out and spend my money. I'm making my money and then I spend it, and that means I get more, right? The only reason that spenders tend to get more money is so they can spend more money, and they don't really think too far into the future. So they tend to have the catch cry of, you only live once, so I might as well spend it all now, right? So just get on there and spend it. And they tend not to invest, because obviously you can't invest, you can't spend money that's stuck in an investment, even something short term or whatever. And they do like the get rich quick schemes, because they feel that they're going to make their money and they'll have more money to spend really, really quickly. So there may be some of you that can relate to that, even on some degree, where it's, where it's something you used to do in the past, or you do a little bit of that when there's an abundance of money that comes in and all that sort of stuff. But just take note, if you're a spender, just write that down on your piece of paper if you've got one there, to say, yeah, I can relate to that. The next one, by the way, so on the cycle of things, it's basically like they generate and they disperse. They don't really organize, they just go from generation to disperse. So it's not really a cycle, it's just hopefully that for them it's a one-way street. It comes in, it goes out, it comes in, it goes out. It doesn't really create that full cycle of expansion. Now, the hoarder, some of you will be familiar with this one. The catch cry of the hoarder is hold on tight, because they're riding that pendulum like some shit's going to hit the fan. Like we said it before, they're like, oh, the money's come in, but it's not going to last forever. I'm going to prepare for it. So I'm going to squirrel away that money. And, these people, that they even start hiding the money from themselves. They'll put it in places that they can't even, they'll put it in, sock drawers and behind photo frames and all sorts of things. It's just like, oh, I've got to hold on tight. And as much as possible, they try and stymie the flow. So there's basically only the bare essentials go out. Like there's bills to be paid. Okay. You clutch it out of their fingers at the post office, handing the money over, trying to pay the electricity bill and those sorts of things. I'm obviously going to extremes here, but it always helps. And they also, believe it or not, they're not really fans of investments because it puts the money out of reach. It puts it in a state where it's out of their control, and because it's out of their control, it's like it's at risk. And if it's at risk, it's no good. So they actually much prefer to have thousands of dollars stuffed in the mattress than to be in some sort of an account or an investment, which is actually creating money for them, right? They'd rather just leave it there. And obviously the problem with that is, especially at the moment, if you know anything about money, our cash does not outpace inflation rates, right? So it's actually, you think you got $100, well, in 5 years' time, it will not be worth $100. It'll be worth a lot less than that, especially the last couple of years. So that's a hoarder. So if you resonate on some degree with a hoarder, now sometimes you've got the law of polarity working right here, in that you go from spender until you feel insecure, and then you go into hoarder, and vice versa. Then you build up some money, and it's like, okay, well, I'll actually start spending some again now. All right. So some of you might oscillate between those two. The next one is the avoider. By the way, in the cycle, the hoarder gets stuck mostly at organization. So they generate and they organize it into a drawer under their bed, in a shoe, wherever, so that they're not going to spend it, or it's not going to go missing. So that's where it gets stuck, and there's just a dribble into the dispersal. The avoider is the person who basically puts their head in the sand, does not want to know. It's basically the money comes in, the money goes out, seems to all work out, and I really don't want to know about it because I'm either going to muck it up, or it's going to be scary if I have to look at what's going on and how much is going out. Number of times I've been doing some money river work with people, and they just go, I had no idea. I filled in the bills account, and I had no idea that amount of money was going out every year. It freaks them out. So when you're in avoider mode, you've got no real idea about the truth of how things are. You don't know what your current reality is like, and you certainly can't see the upcoming train wreck. All right. So unlike the hoarder who's planning for the train wreck, the avoider is basically like, we just hope that no train wreck happens, but we're just not even going to talk about the train wreck. All right. And again, they're not keen to invest because they find that investing and managing is too hard. They go into a confusion, a little bit like that freeze, babooning type state. And it brings up lots of anxiety if someone says that you have to invest your money. Some people even over here in Australia, that we have things called super funds, they get freak out about that, right? It's like, I don't even know if I got in the right fund. I don't know. So that's the avoider. So the avoider basically allows the cycle to sort of go on unconsciously, no organization going on. The money sort of comes in, it sort of dribbles out, but there's no consciousness about it. So really it's not going to go anywhere. It's a very stuck cycle at best, and at worst, it's a downward spiral until the train wreck happens. The money monk. Now, this is one where someone needs to be seen as good or perfect, and they very much are publicly displaying that they distribute their money into worthy causes. So it's what we call virtue signaling. So they're generating the money, and most of the money goes into the dispersal again, but very publicly as a giver. I'm a giver. I'm contributing to this. I'm contributing to that, and then they don't really know much about what's going on in their world. So they can be like an avoider. And again, this is the extreme of it, but they're not very good at managing their money. And actually, even though it would seem it would be a good thing for them to invest and make more money from their money, they see it as a bad thing because it would make them bad to be rich, right? So if they do make money in an investment, they give it away almost straight away, in some way, shape or form. They make sure that they lose it or give it away. So there's that flow there. It's just going from generation to dispersal. I don't really want to know about the organization too much, apart from making sure that people see me giving the money away. So when we teach money principles, and we do have a charity level in there, and we do advise that people do your charity and giving anonymously to avoid getting yourself into a cycle with the money monk side of things. So as opposed to the functional archetype, which is basically the money comes in, You organize it through a flow, which is a hierarchy of what's important, i.e. you are most important. Then there's your shelter and your food, and then there's your fun things to do. And then last of all is your bills, which again, also freaks most people out. But when it's organized and it's running smoothly, the bills all get paid with ease and without any problems at all. And all the other important areas of your life as an expansive being here in the universe, having an expansive experience, actually get to be lived out at the same time. So, so there we go. So let's just stop there and get some shares. What's landing for you guys in relation to the money in the law of circulation? Because as I said, it's a really good one to be able to easily see what we've been doing and what puts us in circulation or takes us out of circulation. By the way, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're noticing some of these things, notice how it shows up in things like your health, your energy, your time, your focus, your business, anything that is important to you, your fun, your love and connections with other people. How's this dysfunction in the cycle showing up in other areas of your life? You can see it easily with the money, but take note, where else is it showing up? All right, so what's landing, guys? What are we getting about this? What are we getting about it? Or are we just all, we got Sarah and Pam and Deb.
I have a question, actually, from something you just said. So in both, so avoided generates and then disperses, but there's no organization. Is that correct? So it's kind of similar to the spender, but the spender is actually aware and looking to get rich quick, whereas the avoider is just like, I have no idea about this. Is that correct?
The avoider, head in the sand. They're still generating. Like all these people are generating. And otherwise, there's not much going on. So they're just basically avoiding it, and the general catch cry is when you talk to them is simply like, it just seems to work, and I don't know how it works, but money comes in, money goes out, and I seem to be okay, but they're not really okay because they're not really taking into account things that then hit them on their ass at some point. Like, if they forgot there's a car registration coming up at some point, or there's some other big event, or something comes out of the blue and they need a butt ton of money that they just don't have. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, that does. And the money monk, I don't know if this is important, so tell me if it's important.
That's good.
The money monk, they obviously all of them have to generate, or there's no cycle.
Correct.
But does the money monk, again, do they not organize, or do they not disperse? I was confused.
They do disperse. They disperse into a charity. The rest of their organization is very limited because they can't be seen as someone who has the benefit of their own money, right? Because that would make them a bad person. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you, thank you, that's awesome. What I'm hearing from you is that when we're in real flow and in that law of circulation, money comes in and then it flows when we put it to things that are important. So we get the generation in, and then we put it to fun, we put it to bill, but bills is that last piece. So it really comes in, we pay ourselves first, we do what we enjoy with it, then we pay our bills, and then that generates more. And that's different because most of us kind of go, God, we've got these bills, and fun goes down the line. And so that's where it sounds like you're getting to, that's where we're going to get stuck at times. I don't know. I'm really curious about the next piece.
Well, essentially, I'm just going to feed straight into that. When we learn to eat our dinner, and we learn that you have to have dessert after you've eaten your main meal, and you have to eat all of the main meal, that's when we learn that we have to pay our bills first, right? Or the other thing that, you have to do your chores before you get to go out and play. Right. So we end up prioritizing a whole ton of things that aren't important. The number of people I've spoken to, it's like, I can't write my book because the house isn't clean. What? Can you not write a book in a dirty house or an unorganized house? You can. Like, no, I'm sure that someone in the universe has written a book in a pigsty at some point, and it doesn't matter. They wrote the damn book, and that was what their heart was pulling them into. And so we surrender our high quality demands, which are the things that our heart calls us into. So that's why it's important to know what is true for you. If you're an artist and you're not spending time on your art, it's sucking you out of the law of circulation. You are robbing yourself of the generation and the energy of what's important, because high quality demands are always supported, right? Whereas the low quality demands, which is things we think are important, paying the bills first, cleaning the house before I write the book, they're actually taking you the other way. You're trying to satisfy the conditions that are unimportant to satisfying the truth of your heart. And the cool thing is, if we focus on our heart-based things, the things that we thought were important actually end up taking care of themselves. Like I haven't looked at my bills account. I mean, I do, that's not true. I haven't had to go in and assess my bills account for about 6 years now. And the bills don't go unpaid. The bills are always paid because there is a certain amount of flow that goes into the bills account. It's all structured and it's all done. I don't put any energy into it other than if the electricity bill came in, which I don't have one at the moment because I'm a nomad at the moment, but when the electricity bill was coming in, I was actually joyfully paying it because there was more than enough money in the bills account to cover that, right? It's just like, yeah, cool, bring that on. Let's pay the electricity bill. Yay. Whereas there was years gone by where the electricity bill would come in and I go, oh, shit, electricity bill. Oh no, it's like, where's the money going to come for that? Right. So
yeah, I love what you just said about high quality demands are always supported.
That's right.
Look, I'll reverse that. I probably go in the low quality demands and go, I've got to get those done first. I've got to make sure, because things that I enjoy probably seem like a luxury.
That's right. And then they become the leftovers and they're not supported.
No.
Right? Because you're not organizing the money in favor of what's true and that expansive human that you came here to be. Or the energy, or the focus, or the time, all the things, all the resources. If you're not organizing in order of importance of high quality demands over the low quality demands, they won't be supported. But if you go the other way around, support the high quality demands, put your energy and focus and everything into that, all the important egoic stuff gets taken care of. You end up with a house cleaner, you end up with the bills being paid, you end up with all these things just being supported in support of you. So yeah, there you go. Beautiful. Even if that's the one thing you get, that's gold right there. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. Pam, was you next?
Yeah, well, I just have the image of a cliff, and I have like money in an investment account which has shares in it and things, but I leave it there and I'll say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll invest tomorrow, and then same with the paintings. I've got hundreds and hundreds of all the drawings and paintings ready for this little book. Yeah, like all the work, years. And then there's this little cliff with me standing on the top, and it's almost like, gee, now I've got to take a risk. And then when the risk, oh, no. And then I forget very conveniently to go and do that risk-taking. And I've just got this fantastic idea from your conversation. Why have I called it a risk?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
That is interesting. It's like, I mean, I do lots of things. It's not, but this is like a little core thing that's coming up.
Yeah.
What is this risk I've invented?
Yeah, that's right. Because the ego wants to keep you safe and small and riding the pendulum in the law of rhythm, right?
Look at the risk.
No. Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Good, thank you.
If you sit and look at it for 2 minutes and say, what's really at stake here? You'll actually find nothing. There is no risk.
It's just I've got a huge clip here. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. So, and then you get to put your energy into a high quality demand, which then puts you into the cycle of flow, which is what we want. Yeah. Perfect. Very good. Thanks. Thanks, Pam. Deb was next. I didn't forget. I remembered the order.
Oh no. I was hoping you'd forget, because when I put my hand up, no one was putting their hand up. I thought I'll try and say something. Now I'm like, oh my God, I do all 4 of those things. I'm like, oh, thank God there's an answer. You've just told us that. But I'm going to have to go back and listen to the recording.
Oh, that's fine. But absolutely.
Numerous times. I may even make my own recording and play it over and over and over again. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's been a big slap in the face, and I needed it.
Well, hopefully it's a good slap in the face, not a.
Yeah. But
Awesome.
But it's fun. You know what I mean? It's all fun. It's all joy and learning, and I think that was one of the things about having the dessert. We had to finish what was on our plate, so I very rarely had dessert. So I struggled with the finishing on the plate, but it's also. We were taught to be really serious about everything, so it reminds me about that too, and to not be so serious. put some structures in place and then have a play around that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Absolutely. Hey, if you want more fun in your life, just generate more fun. Organize it so that you can have more fun. Like, that's one of the reasons Craig and I go to improv comedy classes, because there's no reason for it other than it's a butt ton of fun, right? And we get to laugh and hang out with some cool people, and it's a connective thing we get to do together, and so it's good for the relationship. And so, generate, organize, disperse. Anything you want more of, apply the law of circulation to it, and you'll watch it expanding and grow. Carolyn, sorry, Caroline.
Thank you. That was what was really landing for me, that how I do one thing is how I do other things. And you're talking about the money. I would say for the last 4 or 5 years, the same thing. I don't even look at the money paying the bills. We always have enough money for that. What took us a bit of time was the fun things, really putting them up front and really investing ourselves in the fun things. And we do now. We had dessert first yesterday. So we'd driven about 900 kilometres. We got almost home and Paul said, should we just go and get ice cream first? Because I said, I haven't thought about tea. And I went, yeah, let's go get ice cream. So we had ice cream first. But that is almost how we're seeing the rest of life and how it's working. In one of my choices, it is about our relationship. And almost bringing it down to high over the lower is being pissed off with Paul for 20 seconds worth it, or would I rather just be happy with him? And it's that whole penny dropping. How I do one thing is how I do everything.
Yeah.
So argument or ice cream, it's like I might as well go for the ice cream with him.
Yeah, absolutely, because the other stuff will sort itself out.
It does, and it does. It always does.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's the truth, and really, really experiencing the truth of it. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Carolyn. Dessert first from now on, guys. That's what we're going to do. Dessert first. Awesome. Sarah, you've come back around again.
I do, because I have a question about what was just talked about. In the how we do one thing is how we do it in everything. I don't have that. So how I organize, like my food, my health, it's so organized, generate, I disperse, more. But that's very different to how I organize money. So cool. I wonder if that's to do with our values as well.
Will be, exactly. Yeah, it's like, something, it has put a very high value on the way you organize your health and nutrition and all those sorts of things, and whether it's a high, like a heart's true calling, or whether it's a dysfunction, like you're fearful of losing your health or something like that, there'll be something that's actually driving that to have you in such a state of organization and all those sorts of things. And it might be even that it's to the point where actually, in a way, you're hoarding health, if you know what I mean. Like you're really like, oh, hang on tight. I've got to make sure.
There is a certain dysfunction there as well.
Yeah.
I'll get curious about that. I have worked over that the last couple of years, but I'll get curious about the parallels, because that's interesting as well. But cool. Thanks.
Sometimes a big story, a reference, or as you say, an unconscious value will throw it a little bit askew, but generally the pattern is the same. So yeah. Cool. Awesome. Good question. So as we talked about the spender, the hoarder, the avoider, and then the virtue signaling money mug, again, imagine trying to do that with your breath. Imagine, breathing, like spending your breath as fast as you could. It's like, not really taking it in. It's not a very functional way of being. Or hoarding, as we said before, just trying to keep a little bit for ourselves all the time. Avoiding, like not even taking any notice that you're breathing at all. Like it just happens in the background. I don't have anything to do with it. And then also the virtue signaling. I was like, I'm breathing out so the trees can live. Look at me breathing. I'm breathing in so I can make more carbon dioxide for the trees. So we can, it sounds ridiculous, but we're doing that in other areas of life, particularly with our money and things like that. So we really do want to be conscious about the things that are important for us, that we do want to have expansive experiences of. where are we able to keep that flow going? Am I generating it in one way, shape, or form? Now, for some things, you might say, look, I want to generate a great relationship, but I don't have a relationship. Well, just thinking about it, in the work that we do, having a vision and connecting to the vision, being in the energy of it, having the end result emotion, vibration going on in your body and things like that, that is actually generating. You're in generating mode. And then that's getting organized in some way, shape, or form. Like that, I won't go into Craig and my story, but 12 years ago, the universe conspired for us to come together, and we've been together for the 12 years in a couple of days' time. But that, I was putting the generation in there, and he was as well. And then we got to the point where eventually the two of us met and we got together, and it's been now this is the cycle of an ongoing expansive relationship. So sometimes the generating doesn't mean that you have to go out and go on lots of dates. It just means, okay, I'm in the vision of it. I'm holding the end result for it. I'm in the end result emotion of it. And that's enough, right? You just keep doing that, and then taking your bridges and those sorts of things when we're making choices. That's exactly the cycle, right? We're in the cycle as long as we're making our choices and taking our action and all those sorts of things. So for most of us who know what that's about, that's good. So we're already on the first base. We know how to get things moving in the right direction. Same thing with money, same thing with energy, same thing with health. We just keep moving through that way. So what I'd love you to do is just take a moment before we finish up, because I don't want you to leave having a really good time. Like, it was really good, hanging with Linda for an hour and listening to her crazy rabbiting on. But take a moment and just go, what's the big takeaway that you're going to take away with you from the talk tonight, from the masterclass? How are you going to apply it in your life? What are you going to and observe? And if there's something that seems really obvious to do a little bit differently right now, what is that one thing? Just one thing. You don't need a bunch of them. Just what's your big takeaway? What are you going to apply? And what does it seem obvious to do differently? So Janine's going to share. So that's awesome. Kicking off the sharing, and then Pam, and then Zoe.
Yeah, awesome. I'm pretty thankful for Carolyn, actually, because my parents were brought up in the Depression, so it was hoard, save. They weren't bad at investing, actually, but I was oblivious. Avoid. And they would do, you need to do that. No, it'll work out. It'll all come out in the wash. But then since I've retired, I'm starting to spend it and feeling so guilty because I'm thinking, I haven't got a lot of time left. I better use it while I can. But I'm feeling so guilty about it. So thank you for the dessert. It's almost like you guys have given me permission now to have fun with the money that I've spent, 50 years making. So thank you for that.
No worries. Well, don't forget, you might live to 120. So.
Oh, yeah. Dribbling in a nursing home, yeah.
No.
No.
That's not my plan. If I live to 120, that it's going to be. I'm playing tennis. I'm going to take up tennis at 80. That's my plan. Yeah, I'm going to wait till I'm 80 before I start playing tennis. Okay, cool. Pamela.
I just realised I wasn't mute. I do apologise for saying no.
I didn't hear it.
I just had to tell you before I give the main point is that I often have dessert before the main meal because of all of the preconditioning. So I've had a great delight doing that. The main thing I'm taking away from this is to actually get a coach instead of. I think having a coach would be the best. I've got all shares and all that, but I think having a coach would be one of the best investments I could make. So anyway,
a high quality demand, that's for sure. So yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Okay, thank you.
Same coach for 36 years. So, I'm biased, so I'd only just go, okay. I've just seen that very powerfully. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Now we'll just let it all come in. Okay, thank you, Linda. Thanks, Pam. Zoe.
Hi. Just the takeaway. I mean, it happens almost every time, but the fact is how we do one thing is how we do everything. Like looking at the money, that I'm a hoarder and an avoider. And then I just saw that across everything I do. It's like, oh my God. So I've been very good at this recently. And every time I try to avoid it, it's like, no, just doing it. So it's just really doing that and realizing how easy it is just to switch focus into your heart into your heart focused desires, your high quality demands, it is easy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It sure is, because it's only just fear getting hold of you, and it's just a matter of going, oh, what if I put that aside? Like Pam was saying about standing on the cliff. We just put that aside, see what happens by applying the law of circulation. It all sorts itself out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is the amazing ride. All right. And just remember also, like a little shellfish, it can start off looking pretty small, but within no time at all, the segments get big and big and big. So, you know, you're really riding the wave after you put the investment in the early stages, which is brilliant. That's how it should work. Yeah, beautiful. Now go on.
No, I was just going to say, and this is just what I'm going to do is I'm going to book my flights to Morocco this weekend, because I realize I'm too focused on, you know, the hoarder, oh, just in case there's a war, just in case there's this. And so it's like, no, just go and book the flights.
Yeah. And that's what travel insurance is for. Who cares?
Yeah.
You cancel
doesn't cover wars though.
Well, if you end up in a war zone, but
I know.
You'll be fine. Yeah, you'll be
know.
fine. All right, cool. Thanks, Zoe. Go and get those damn tickets. I think I've heard you say that before somewhere. Anyway, I think I saw Leanne and then Sarah.
Yeah, just that the law of circulation is the higher, and just be aware of that, you know, because I often get stuck in oscillating or rhythm, oscillating mainly. And so, you know, just bringing my awareness to it and keep myself reorienting and putting in the high quality demands, and just I think it's just continuously shifting my focus and not allowing myself to spiral into that oscillation, and keep my ego happy. Because I'd rather be happy than my ego.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, it's either it's happy or you're happy, genuinely happy. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, fantastic, very good. Egoic happiness is very temporary. Let's just say it's like that. You know, that's why instant gratification is such a big industry. Anything that you get instant gratification from, you'll do really well if you've got an industry in that. Sorry, Sarah.
Because I have another question in this. I know concentrating on my high quality demands is where I need to refocus again. I also need to do new choices and all that. But my question is, if income is like drying up, where is that coming in this law of circulation?
Because you're focusing on your income drying up, so that's what you're generating the energy about, and you're actually creating more evidence that the income's drying up, like the pond with the poor old hippo one that I was talking about at the beginning, where the sun's beating down on him and it's drying up. The focus is on that, right, rather than what's obvious. I'm generating abundance. I want more abundance in my life so I can feed into good high quality demands. So first of all, what would I love? Put your focus in that and take any action that you can take in favor of that thing, even if it's just a small amount. Like I've had people get angry at me when I've said to them in their money river, put 10 cents in your me account because that's all you can afford. And they go, 10 cents? What the fuck is 10 cents going to do? It's going to take me like a year to save up for a cup of coffee. And it's not about the 10 cents. It's about the action that you're taking and what you're informing your subconscious, which is I'm important, right? And when you start doing that in the right order, you are feeding into the law of circulation. So 10 cents is not 10 cents. It's probably worth $1 million to you in the long run because you did it. But if you don't put the 10 cents in, it's not worth anything. You're just going to go spiraling backwards. So you're focusing up on if you focus on your supply, it will dry up. It'll get smaller and smaller and smaller. When you focus on your high quality demands, the supply has to come in to meet it. It just has to.
That makes total sense. What's just happened, like book and taking time off, and then all of a sudden going, fuck, I've been on this book for so long. Sorry about the swearing on the recording. I've been on the book for so long. It's like everything else is dried up because I've put energy there. But yeah, okay. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah. But you've invested the energy in a high quality demand. So it's on the way.
Yes.
It's just, you've got to keep going. You've got to finish it. You've got to harvest the damn seeds. You can't just leave them to rot in the ground, right? So
got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Very good. So I might finish there, but basically, as you leave, and hopefully you've got your takeaways and something you're going to apply, and I'd love to hear about them at some point. So the best place to pop that's in the Facebook group at some point. But just remember that, William says magicians are energy givers, and there's a reason for that. It's not because he wants you to necessarily put your hand up and share and all that sort of stuff, but we are genuinely energy givers because we're a cooperative part of the ever-expanding universe, and we know that as we're giving it out, it's going to come back, not necessarily from the people or the source or the whatever we're feeding into, but it's going to come back from somewhere. And especially when we're looking at supporting something that's in our high quality demand realm. So one of the reasons I'm here is, apart from the fact that I love being here and teaching, and this is my absolute heart opening love. I love doing this stuff, and so I'm getting energy back straight away. But also because I know that by contributing to you guys, that you'll go out and there'll be a ripple effect, and at some point that'll come back to me in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to come directly from you; it's just going to come back, right? So we want to be energy givers. We want to put our gifts out into the world and do what we do, because we're all here to expand. And as we expand, everybody else gets to expand as well. So how cool is that, right? So be an energy giver, be out there giving your gifts and talents out there in the way and form that is true for you. So I'm just going to make sure I can see the whole screen. Is there anyone who wants to close out with a final share? Who's got the budding final share that they would love to go, yes, it's me. I want to give the energy and say goodbye and all that sort of stuff. It's Tamara. Hey, Tamara.
Oh, I couldn't help myself with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just, you're so right. Giving energy, that's where the magic happens, right? For me especially, I can look at all this and I can go, what am I going to do this week? I can do this. No, it's being in true service and giving my energy. And, I love that thing with William, and he always says it, and I know you would agree that when we do what we love, money, and love will chase us. All those things that I sit here wanting, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not getting this, I'm not that. None of it matters at the end of the day. But can I just say, I love the theme that's been happening tonight with what you do in one place, you do everywhere. Because as a teacher, I've been teaching young girls this week, empowering them and saying the exact same thing, and going to myself, I am definitely the hoarder, because I'm always waiting for the shit to hit the fan. My coach and I were always like, this is the story, and I could see it so clearly. And I was like, why am I holding on so tight? I can't control anything. So yes, thank you for the ability to let go and just let it flow.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's brilliant. And I can tell you from experience that when completely going a gutser and losing absolutely everything was the best thing that ever happened, right? So don't worry about it. You can't lose, right? You really can't lose at this game. So just pick yourself up out of the dust and just move forward and just apply the law again. It's all you do is worked out there's one way not to do it.
Amazing.
Brilliant. You guys have been amazing. I've loved being with your energy. Thank you so much. And you might as well unmute. Let's make a racket for the final part of the recording. And love you guys.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Sonia.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Everyone. Bye. Thanks, Rita. Sampai jumpa.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Salamat malam.